Good evening, and welcome to Good Evening, the Alfred Hitchcock podcast. I am your host, Brandon-Shea Mutala, and joining me, as always, is my ever-constant co-host, Chris Haigh. Chris, how are you doing? How are you liking this beautiful, colorful fall season we have here in Vermont?
Oh, I'm not even, I know it's like a bit, but I would live there. Oh, it's gorgeous. I love the foliage, or as Marge Simpson would call it, the foliage.
Foliage. Excellent, right on. Well, joining us as always is our ever-constant co-host Tom Caldwell as well, but I actually just tripped over him. So, I don't know, he's non-responsive, so I'm just I'll put him in this hole, and then we might bring him back out later.
I was wondering where you were going with that. I was like, what, is Tom actually? And you were like, well, he tripped over him. And I'm like, oh, Tom.
Alas, according to our summer schedules, as happens every summer, we are still having trouble coordinating all of our schedules together. Crossing our fingers, hopefully Tom will be back with us and everything will be back to normal starting next month here as we gaze into the fall season. But not only will we be gazing into the fall season later on, we're gazing into the fall season as we watch this film. So, holy smokes, this movie was beautiful.
Oh my God. We're going to discuss it, and I have a lot of feelings, but this is maybe the prettiest film Hitchcock's ever made. Maybe?
Yes, might be. Did I say that we're talking about The Trouble with Harry? Did I mention that yet?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're talking about The Trouble with Harry.
And in case you've not read the title of the episode.
Yes. You know, which our loyal fans they're just zombies and just hit play. They don't even know what we're talking about, right? No. They know what's going on because they got to do homework, right? They got to watch the movies and whatnot. So
I'm gonna say, I do think when you listen to the episodes, I'm like, please God, have seen the film before we talk about it, because we're not like, oh, here's the spoiler section. It's like, no, I'll come right off the bat and go, well, I think that was rubbish the way that so and so was killed, and you're like, okay.
Spoilers, yes.
Yeah.
I got to say, though, so we've been leading up to our coverage, which begins starting next week on the Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes. And did you recognize the music in this movie?
It's Bernard Herrmann, I believe.
Yeah, that sound, there's that sound bite that they use in all the Hitchcock Presents episodes, I think. There's like a repeating sound bite that you get in the title sequence of the Hitchcock Presents.
Oh my God, I'm going to have to go back and watch this now. And just like track the sound. Yeah. Okay, that's a fun activity. I'm definitely doing that now. And it also means you should check out the Hitchcock Presents as and when they come out from next week onwards.
Yeah, and we'll be covering, just in case you haven't missed it out of the last couple episodes, we'll be covering only the episodes that Hitchcock directed, and we will be continuing our movie coverage. We'll just be doing everything chronologically. So, I mean, we got a busy, right off the bat here, we got a busy couple of months for episodes, but let me just look at my spreadsheet here. So, yes, today we're doing Trouble with Harry, and then for the rest of August, we're doing the episodes Revenge, Breakdown, The Case of Mr. Pelham, and Back for Christmas on September 3rd. So it's going to take us once a week right up to September 3rd. And then September 10th, we're going to release our episode on The Man Who Knew Too Much. So, yeah, we're pretty much weekly from now until February 11th.
Wow.
So, yeah, we got pretty much, they're just short episodes, like 10 or 15 minutes or whatever, on these Hitchcock Presents episodes. But, so we're going to do it all in chronological order. So the next film is The Man Who Knew Too Much. But between Trouble with Harry and The Man Who Knew Too Much, there were 4 episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents that were released. So we'll cover those once a week for the next few weeks here. So, and I am excited to hear what everybody thinks of that discussion, those discussions that we're going to be having. So, Chris, before we get into the trivia, did you want to give us a quick summary of The Trouble with Harry? Please tell me what his trouble is.
What is Harry's trouble? So, when a local man's corpse appears on a nearby hillside in Vermont, no one is quite sure what happened to him. Many of the town's residents secretly wonder if they are responsible, including the man's ex-wife Jennifer, Shirley MacLaine, and Captain Albert Wiles, Edmund Gwen, a retired seaman who was hunting in the woods where the body was found. As the no-nonsense sheriff Royal Dano gets involved, and local artist Sam Marlowe, John Forsyth, offers his help, the community slowly unravels the mystery.
So, trivia. The Trouble with Harry is a 1955 American Technicolor black comedy directed by Hitchcock. Screenplay by John Michael Hayes, was based on the 1950 novel by Jack Trevor Story. It was released on the 30th of September 1955, but it was re-released in 1984 once the distribution rights had been acquired by Universal Pictures. So they had the premiere in Barrie, Vermont, and that has a running time of 99 minutes. Now, primary location shooting took place in Craftsbury, Vermont. Assuming that the town would be in full foliage, the company showed up for outdoor shots on September 27th, 1954. To the filmmaker's shock, there was hardly any foliage left. To achieve a full effect, leaves were glued to the trees. Several scenes in the film had to be shot in a rented high school gym because of persistent rain. And in the gym, a 500-pound camera fell from a great height and barely missed hitting Hitchcock, and the sound of the rain on the roof of the gym necessitated extensive post-production re-recording. Other locations included Morrisville and Barrie, with the shooting lasting up to December of that year. Full details of the making of the film are in Stephen DeRosa's book, Writing with Hitchcock. The paintings of the character Sam Marlowe were painted by American abstract expressionist artist John Farren, who was present during principal photography in Vermont. While there, he instructed John Forsyth in the correct painting technique for his on-screen work. Hitchcock was particularly interested in Farren's work for his vivid use of color, which he thought would be resonant with the autumnal colors of New England. The sketch of the corpse, Harry Warp, was done on location by Farren's wife, Ray Farren, also a fine artist. Hitchcock and Farren very much enjoyed collaborating, and as a result of this first project together, he was invited several years later to design the special sequence core to 1958 Hitchcock film Vertigo. The panoramic drawing for the opening credits was done by Saul Steinberg. Now, I completely missed this, okay? So I don't know if you saw it, but maybe I was just captivated with the film, I'm not sure. But Alfred Hitchcock's cameo happens about 22 minutes and 14 seconds into the film as he walks past a parked limousine while an old man looks at paintings for sale at the roadside stand. Did you catch this while you were watching?
No, I completely missed it.
I missed it too. So the corpse, Harry Warp, was played by Philip Truex, who was the son of character actor Ernest Truex. And The Trouble with Harry is notable as a landmark in Hitchcock's career as it marked the first of several highly regarded collaborations with composer Bernard Herrmann. In an interview for New York Times on June 18, 1971, Hitchcock stated that the score was his favorite of all of his films. Herrmann recorded a new arrangement of highlights from the film's score for Phase 4 stereo, with Herrmann calling the arrangement a portrait of Hitch. A song sung by John Forsyth's character, Flaggin' to the Train to Tuscaloosa, was written by Raymond Scott, and Forsyth is not the performer, however, which is the least shocking fact in all of this information. A cash-in song titled The Trouble with Harry was written by Floyd Heddleson with Herb Wiseman and Mark McIntyre. A recording of the song by Ross Bagdasarian Sr., using the pseudonym of Alfie and Harry, was released as a single in early 1956, reaching number 44 on the U.S. Billboard chart and number 15 on the UK singles chart. Competing version by Les Baxter reached number 80 on the Billboard chart. The title aside, the record has no connection with the film. And the world premiere of The Trouble with Harry was in Vermont, where it was shot with revenue donated to recent flood victims, to victims of a recent flood. Now, discussing some of the actors, Edmund Edmund Gwynn was a theater and film actor, and he was the older brother of Arthur Chesney. Gwynn appeared in more than 80 films during his career, including the 1940 version of Pride and Prejudice. He is perhaps best remembered for his role as Kris Kringle in Miracle on 34th Street, for which he won an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. He received a second nomination for his role in Mr. 880 from 1950, and near the end of his career, he played one of the main roles in Alfred Hitchcock's Trouble with Harry. Edmund Gwynn died from pneumonia after suffering a stroke at age 81, and he is a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame at 1751 Vine Street for his contribution to motion pictures. And I know him best from the sci-fi atomic horror film Them, about the giant ants.
I was going to say the 1940 Pride and Prejudice is good.
Is it? Okay, yeah. Now, we have seen him. This is the fourth time we've seen him. This is the final time we'll see him in a Hitchcock film. But he was in The Skin Game, Waltzes from Vienna, Foreign Correspondent, and The Trouble with Harry. And then we will see him, if you watch all of them, you will see him in the Alfred Hitchcock Presents episodes Father and Son from 1957. Now, John Forsythe, who was born Jacob Lincoln Freund, was an American stage, television, and film actor. He starred in 3 television series that spanned 3 decades, such as single Playboy father Bentley Gregg in the 1950s sitcom Bachelor Father, as the unseen millionaire Charles Townsend in the popular 70s crime drama Charlie's Angels, and as a conniving and beloved patriarch Blake Carrington on the popular 1980s soap opera Dynasty. He died in 2010 in California from pneumonia at age 92. Now, we will see him one more time in a Hitchcock film in Topaz, and then he is in an Alfred Hitchcock Presents episode called Premonition, and an Alfred Hitchcock Hour episode called I Saw the Whole Thing. Mildred Natwick was an American actress who won a Primetime Emmy Award and was nominated for an Academy Award and 2 Tony Awards. She was twice nominated for the Tony Awards for Waltz of the Toreadors in 1957 and Tammy and the Bachelor with Demi Reynolds and Leslie Nielsen. In 1972, she was in the musical 70 Girls 70, and she returned to the film in Barefoot in the Park in 1967 as a mother of the character played by Jane Fonda. The role earned Natwick her only Academy Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress. One of Natwick's memorable roles was in The House Without a Christmas Tree from 1972, which starred Jason Robards and Lisa Lucas. This is her only Hitchcock film, but we will see her in a Hitchcock Presents episodes The Perfect Murder and Miss Bracegirdle Does Her Duty. And last but not least, Shirley MacLaine, who was born Shirley MacLaine Beatty in 1934, April 24th, is an American actress, singer, author, activist, and former dancer. In a career which spans 7 decades, she is known for her portrayals of quirky, headstrong, eccentric women. MacLaine is the recipient of numerous accolades, including an Academy Award, 2 British Academy Film Awards, 5 Golden Globe Awards, and a Primetime Emmy Award. Born in Richmond, Virginia, MacLaine made her acting debut as a teenager with minor roles in the Broadway musicals Oklahoma and The Pajama Game. Following minor appearances as an understudy in various other productions, MacLaine made her film debut with Hitchcock's The Trouble with Harry, winning the Golden Globe Award for the New Star of the Year Award for the Actress category. She rose to prominence with starring roles in Around the World in 80 Days, Some Came Running, Ask Any Girl, The Apartment, The Children's Hour, 2 for the Seesaw, Irma la Douce, and many, many more. A 6-time Academy Award nominee, MacLaine won the Academy Award for Best Actress for the comedy-drama film Terms of Endearment in 1983. MacLaine has been the recipient of many honorary awards. She was awarded the AFI Lifetime Achievement Award in 2012, Gala Tribute from the Film Society of Lincoln Center in 1955, and Kennedy Center Honor in 2013. For her contribution to American culture through performing arts. In 1998, she was awarded the Golden Globe Cecil B. DeMille Award, and apart from acting, MacLaine has written numerous books regarding the subjects of metaphysics, spirituality, reincarnation, and a best-selling memoir called Out on a Limb from 1983. This is her only Hitchcock appearance. Well, there's my trivia. That's what I got for you. Now on to The Corpse. Okay, so I didn't hate this movie as much as I was anticipating. I've seen this once before, so this is only the second time I've seen it. But I still didn't love this movie this time around. I was expecting this to be as bad as like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That's what I remember of it. Okay, and it's definitely not. But I mean, like, just getting the stuff that I didn't like out of the way right at the beginning. Like, Hitchcock liked the dark humor of them like fumbling around with this corpse. And honestly, just watching this film, all of that stuff just really annoyed me, and I thought it was really stupid. So, I mean, all the stuff that didn't involve the corpse I thought was fine and wonderful. All the stuff involving the corpse was just did not work for me at all. So, that's where I'll start. Chris, what do you think? What's your first impressions of this film?
I'm going to say I've only just seen this film in the past week for the first time. And it doesn't have a great reputation amongst Hitch's canon, but it's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be. Mm-hmm. However, yeah, I think I have the same issue with you, where I'm like, it's supposed to be this sort of dark screwball comedy kind of thing, and in a way it reminds me a lot of Arsenic and Old Lace, but sort of in reverse, in terms of, oh my god, we've discovered this dark, horrible, shocking fact. How do we, how do we cover it up? How do we try and find out what's going on, that sort of thing. Arsenic and Old Lace does it much better. Trouble with Harry is, I think it wants to be two different films at the same time, and it doesn't work, because there is an interesting character study in there of, these four people and how they're affected by the death of someone in their community who they have varying relationships and degrees of separation from. Then there's also this dark comedy, which is, oh my god, we think, we've killed someone, let's hide the body. Very sort of Weekend at Bernie's-ish.
Right.
But they don't really work well together. When they're in one lane or the other, I think it'd be a much stronger product. So, like, I do like the interplay of the relationships between the characters, whether it's, I do not remember any of the characters' names, I'm really sorry, but when you've got, I really don't, they didn't make a massive impression, but when you've got, like, John Forsythe and Shirley MacLaine having that conversation out on the, it's like on the porch, and there's lemonade, and they're just having a chat, and she's kind of describing how she ended up marrying her sort of true love's brother, because, he died in combat, and she was pregnant, and all that sort of thing. That in itself is a great scene. I think it's well acted. I think it's great because I know Shirley MacLaine from stuff like The Apartment, which is a fantastic film, and from stuff later on. So to see her as I think she was 20 when she did this. She's very very young, kind of holding her own against John Forsythe and kind of Edmund Gwynne and all these much older, more how would I describe it? Sort of more established actors. I think is great. It doesn't really work for me because it's too muddled. He doesn't really know what he wants to do. Like, there's the whole subplot with I'm presuming you've watched the film if you're saying it, but there's a whole subplot with a millionaire who randomly rocks up and decides, oh, I'm going to buy all of your art, and it's basically carte blanche, money no object. Now, the payoff for this is that rather than getting money, he basically gets John Forsythe's character sort of says, well, what do each of my friends want? And one of them wants like a proper one of them wants like strawberries, and one of them wants
cash register.
Yeah, that was it. It's like a chrome-plated cash register or something. And that in itself is sweet, and I like that scene, and I like the idea of it. The only problem is that almost feels like it should be the end, really, and it's like, oh, it's a nice, sweet moment, and everyone's together, that sort of thing. And then there's another 20 minutes of another thing with the bot, and I'm like, I don't really care, because the body thing ends up being of no consequence anyway, only for the fact it kind of brings people together. If this had been a different film in terms of, oh, it's a genuine murder mystery, and everyone thinks they've done it, and it's working out who did it, or, is there an element there, I think I could have got a bit more behind it, and I think it'd feel a bit more true to Hitchcock, in that there's a mystery, there's a bit of suspense, there's a thriller thing going on. Whereas with this, it was almost a bit too light-hearted for me to think, oh, no one's actually killed him. There is
Right.
no real consequence going on, because they're obviously setting up, these two pairings of, there's Edmund Gwynn and, forgotten the actress's name, really sorry, and and they said, I think everyone's dead. I don't think Shirley MacLaine's dead, so sorry, Shirley MacLaine, but there's John Forsythe and Shirley MacLaine, and then there's Edmund Gwynn and the other woman. They're pairing them up to kind of resolve these romantic, beats they've set up, which is absolutely fine. But yeah, I just think it's a very weirdly structured film. There are some real positives to it, and I enjoyed, and I could see myself actually maybe enjoying this more on a second time round, but also putting it into the sort of, because I have I don't know about you, but I have a certain like a running list of like films that fit a certain mood. So this for me slots really neatly into sort of a fall or autumn aesthetic. So, like, if I wanted to put a film on, like, I want to feel like it's autumn and, the air is crisp and I can put a jumper on and it's nice and cozy, it's up there with me for, like, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Knives Out, those films which are they have that real fall or autumn feel to it. Visually, this film is stupendous. I genuinely think this is the best looking Hitchcock film I've seen. And, that, it's weird, he is one more for the suspense and the story and the drama. This visually looks incredible, and the colours are fantastic, and even stuff like, you mentioned with John Forsythe's paint a character, and he produces this sort of abstract, neo-abstract art. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's, the colours are great and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a visually beautiful film, and, I was telling Brandon before the episode aired, because I found a version on YouTube. It's been on there for 4 years, so hopefully this doesn't get taken down by the time the episode goes out. Otherwise I'm going to look like a fraud. But there's a version of it which is basically a Blu-ray rip, and so it's crisp and everything looks beautiful, and so I would recommend you find that, because it's free. It's been out for 65 years? No. Yeah, like 66 years it's been out for, so I don't think anyone really minds. But no, visually beautiful. The performances are fine. I think it's trying too hard to do too many things, because it's a dark comedy that's also too light for any real consequences. If that makes any sense. Yeah,
like you've hit the nail on a lot of heads that I have problems with, right? Like that whole 20 minutes extra thing at the end. You're right. When they're going through and selling the art, that feels like the end of the movie. Right, that really feels like the end of the movie, and then we have this whole other thing, and it's like, well, it's not the end of the movie, because they still have to deal with the body. But I mean, like, going back to the beginning there, when the captain starts walking towards the body after hearing a gunshot, right? Yeah. So we hear these gunshots and whatnot, and then he starts walking towards the body, and he the first thing he does is pick up a can, right? And it's like, I don't know why he thinks he shot that can. First off, so by the time he gets to the body and he thinks it's him, and his whole realization of not killing him is the fact that he counted his bullets. But why would he think he shot that can? Like, that can is old and rusty and just laying on the ground. That could have been shot 30 years ago, that thing, right? And then the red herring in it is that it's really the rabbit. The kid found the dead rabbit and whatnot. But I mean, this whole thing starts because he thinks he shot this guy that doesn't have a bullet wound on him. And so, the whole beginning of this film is lunacy.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work for me. And I get that's what the movie is, right? And that may work for some people, but that just doesn't work for me. And I mean, when the woman walks up to him and is like, what seems to be the trouble here? We find out later that she thinks she killed him by hitting him in the head with the shoe, right? But even still, I don't know, it's just it's just built on lunacy, and it just doesn't work for me.
It's not just the screwball comedy kind of misunderstanding. It's illogical, because you're like, oh yeah. Oh, I thought I shot him. I thought I hit him in the head. Right, no signs of injury, because, spoiler alert, as it turns out, he just dies of a heart attack.
Well, he did have the wound on his head, right? There was a little bit of blood on his head, which would have been from the shoe, right?
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, there is actually.
So,
yeah, that's fair.
but still, there's no bullet wound on the guy.
No.
So like the captain thinking it was him right from the beginning, right, is just bizarre. Right, it's just bizarre, and it just doesn't work for me. And but even at the end, you know, like when this cop is investigating everything, like there's the guy's got the letter in him. There's fingerprints on the letter. You know, there's still the bum who's in jail with the shoes. Yeah, and the shoes are just going to be on the corpse again. The cop's seen the shoes, right? The cop has seen the shoes, and these shoes are going to be on the corpse again, and you know. Like, all this weird stuff's going on that just doesn't work for me. And I mean, like, my review of this on Letterboxd is like, all of these characters should be in jail for obstruction of justice. Yeah. You know, like, this is, at the end of it, usually there's, like, harmless stuff and whatnot, but this isn't even harmless stuff.
No.
Right? Like, so, it's just this weird tone. So, I get screwball comedies, which I've said in the show in the past I don't really like. The 39 Steps doesn't really work for me because I just don't really like those types of screwball comedies, but that's my personal preference. And that's why this film doesn't quite work for me. So,
and to be fair, that's totally fine. I mean, it's weird. Before the episode, I was like, I don't think I can really talk about this for long. There are certain themes throughout it, and I think again, it's beautifully shot. You know, if you want a film where you can just kind of watch it in the background and not really pay attention and just kind of enjoy how pretty it looks, I think this is absolutely fine. I'd say it's slightly underrated in that it's not terrible, but it's not like this hidden gem. It's not like, oh, it's a classic lost to the canon. It's like, no, it's fine. And I think it's interesting. There was a comment floating around where they were like, oh, well, apparently Hitchcock wanted to make a film with no major stars in it to sort of see what it'd do, and how they've all become big stars or they've achieved success and everything. I'm like, oh, no, that's cool. And if that was his intention, that's absolutely, you know, great and interesting. And it's weird. I nearly said, oh, it's a harmless film, but it's just, it's too weird for me to properly enjoy it. In the sense of, it's trying to be like a touching, light character drama where people kind of fall in love and, you know, people find love at different stages in their life and, you know, found family and all that kind of stuff. But it's against the darkness of, oh, we all think that we may have committed a murder and we're all going to take part in covering it up. And then I mean, I don't have anything else really to say apart from it's weird. It's weird. It's not bad, but it's not great. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing. Like, all of that romantic stuff, I think, is actually really good. You know, this character stuff where, like, you know, the old captain and the older lady are like, you know, they're old, so they don't know how to fall in love, right? Because they've never fallen in love before, so they're kind of awkward. And she's making blueberry muffins, and I think that's really sweet. How she's like, I want to buy this man-sized cup, right? And then she has this lie that he finds out about, that it's her dad's cup that he used forever, and then the captain finds out that it wasn't. She had just bought it the other day. Like, I think all of that stuff is really sweet and really interesting. You know, and him falling in love with Shirley MacLaine and them talking, and even him being this artist, right? This struggling artist in this small Vermont town. All of it works very well, and I think it all works very well because of the setting, like this beautiful Vermont setting. But it's just contrasted with this macabre story plot, it drags the film down for me, and that's the Hitchcock element of it, is this murder mystery that's going on. So it's really weird, and a weird film. I would like this more if it was just a romantic comedy, honestly. And even if Hitchcock directed it in this Vermont setting, I would like it way more.
I would like it. It's two separate films that have been squished together by Hitchcock to make a thing. I'm like, if Hitchcock were to do the darker murder mystery thing, great. The romantic stuff, I actually wouldn't mind seeing someone like Billy Wilder have a go, because I think he would have done a great job with this idea of, you know, younger love and then kind of an older generation finding love and all that sort of thing. I think that would be, I think that would be great.
I'm looking at my movies here. Who was the one that I'm thinking of? I think it's this one here. Who's this guy? Sorry, I'm just grabbing off my shelf here.
Who's this guy?
You said. I'm thinking also Douglas Sirk, you know, like Douglas Sirk could have done this too.
Oh God, yeah, he did. I know exactly what he's done, but I can't think of the name of it. But yeah, he did. I think he did a lot of
All That
romantic
Heaven
dramas.
Allows.
Yes.
Yeah. something like that. So
what was the other? Oh God, there's another one I'm thinking of, and I can't Noel Coward, Brief Encounter, which is it's the opposite. It's a lot sadder than this, which is much lighter. But yeah, that sort of 40s, 50s romantic drama. Like you said, Douglas Sirk had done a good job of it. And if you wanted something that was a bit more kind of light and hopeful and more about misunderstanding, a bit more of like a rom-com, I think Billy Wilder would have done a good job. So again, not bad. Watch it if you want, but it's not one that's going to be in my top 10 anytime soon.
And everything that I've read so far says this is one of Hitchcock's personal favorites of his own movies,
which is bizarre, really.
too. So, yeah.
But then,
anywho,
art and the artist.
Yeah. So, how would you rate this, Chris? Sounds like a 4 out of 5. No, just kidding.
Do you know? I was actually thinking before we started. I'm like, I'll give it a 4. I'll be generous. But more talking about, I'm like, it's more 3 out of 5 abstract paintings that are sold to an apparently eccentric millionaire.
Okay. See, if I was giving halves, I'd probably give this 2.5.
Fair enough.
But I can't give it a 3, so I got to give it a 2. And that 2 is for the double bed, right?
Yes.
Because at least there's going to be a little bit of joy after the fact, right?
Yeah, that's quite a good last line, really. It's like, what did you ask for? Double bed. I'm like, fair enough, that's fun.
Because people didn't have sex before 1955, right? So
no, there's this whole theme of sex that runs throughout it, where it's kind of like, oh, well, he wants to paint in the nude, and he's talking about pregnancy and talking about kind of stuff that's going on, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be more interesting in a more interesting film.
It'd probably be more interesting in 1955 as well, like all the sexual innuendo that's going on. But now today, it's just like, okay,
yeah, it's nothing. You will honestly find more sex in like a Lifetime movie. It's ridiculous, but anyway,
find more sex on Sesame Street probably.
And on that note,
Chris, where can people find you when you're not trying to buy up all of some not famous person's art for a song? Pretty much.
Yes, when I'm not busy being an art collector. You can find me on Twitter at Haigh_boy. Come say hi. I'm usually floating around instead of working. So.
Yep, excellent. Tom, you can find him on Twitter at TomCaldwell3000. And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Brandon-Mutala. I'd like to thank the guys over at the Fandom Podcast Network for hosting our show. You can find our show in their feed as well as our own independent feed. And thank you so much to Jason Cullimore for our wonderful theme music. Be sure to check out our good friends Annie and Catherine over on Good Evening and Alfred Hitchcock Presents podcast. With their show and our show combined, you get a near comprehensive look at the Grand Master's work. And that's all we got for you now. So our next film will be coming to you on September 10th with The Man Who Knew Too Much remake from 1956. But otherwise, over the next 4 weeks, you're going to be getting some Hitchcock Presents, like I said, starting next Friday with Revenge, which is August 13th. And you know what? Isn't that Hitch's birthday?
Is it? Cool.
I think so.
Oh my God,
I think Hitch's birthday is August 13th.
This makes so much sense to me now. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, until then, good evening.
Good evening.